Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Hello and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. And today I want to take a closer look at Batman v Superman in a way that I've never done before. And I really want to look at two elements of Batman v Superman: the extended edition and the edition that destroyed the film in the critics' minds and in the mainstream public's minds. You do not show people a film cut to pieces like the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman to critics and expect to get favourable reviews. It was a joke. Who was running the Warner Brothers film division back then? Kevin Sugihara, that's who. Basically, as we've discussed before, they never wanted Zack Snyder involved on this project, on any of these films. They were scared and intimidated by Christopher Nolan. They gave him what he wanted, which was Zack Snyder and Deb Snyder, but that's not what the studio wanted. And basically, Warner Brothers were afraid of Batman v Superman and afraid of Justice League and afraid of the Suicide Squad movie as well. So in every turn, they did the same thing in every turn. Batman v Superman, cut it to pieces. Suicide Squad, cut it to pieces. Justice League got rid of the director, cut his film to pieces and put some new scenes on it. It's like you're never learning from your mistakes, are you? You know, if you don't like a creative, if you don't like what they're doing, from the beginning of the Man of Steel, you say, goodbye, friend. No. They literally had him going into post-production straight away. Listen, because there's a mixture of greed and fear and intimidation here. So anyway, we're taking a closer look at Batman v Superman. Batman v Superman is the very core of what happened with the Snyder Cut, what happened to Justice League, or Justice League, as we call it. So we look at the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman. Actually, smash a like on this video or comment down below if you believe somebody, but not Zack Snyder, edited the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman. I don't believe for 1 minute Zack Snyder edited this movie. The editing on the theatrical cut is terrible, unprofessional, and it's disgusting. And it seems the only aim from that editing process was to remove things they were afraid the public wouldn't like. Should I tell you what the public didn't like? Editing something so badly, it made no literal sense, right? Because you get to the Senate building exploding, then Lex Luthor's driving through after Batman, that we know Batman's robbed, nicked the kryptonite, stole the kryptonite, right? So it doesn't make sense. In the theatrical cut, you kind of think, well, there's this place, it's been destroyed. Is this kind of elements of the Senate building? Or is it, and you kind of make it up. You kind of have to, it's like you, the audience, have to work out what's going on. So what actually happens is this film is edited so badly, in places, it makes no literal sense. And they called it a mess because the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman, and I didn't want to accept this at the time, and actually it's only since I've seen Batman v Superman, the Ultimate Edition, the alternate cut, so many times that I've realised that the theatrical cut is a narrative literal mess, and the editing is done by someone who doesn't understand editing. I've edited a lot of stuff, firstly amateurly and professionally. And I remember when I used to do my Smallville edits, when I used to be obsessed with Smallville, and I still am, by the way. I used to try and, do these trailers for myself because I just wanted to see the best bits. With Smallville, it was really hard because there's so many best bits for me. But you always try and make it look cool and make the thing literally and narratively have sense. And the editing for Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice is what destroyed it in the mainstream public's mind and in the critics' eyes as well. Because once you show an editorial mess, because that's what the film, Batman v Superman, the film, the idea, the narrative, what Zack Snyder did, is brilliant. It's genius. It's different. So then we go to the marketing of this film. Who will win? Wow, that's it. Who will win? If I ask you, right, if I base my marketing, if I do a video, right, and I say to you, who's got, I don't know, who's got the biggest head, right? I suppose you would assume I'd have about 6 people and we'd be comparing heads. But then I turn up and it's just me, and you're thinking, what are you talking about? Who's got the biggest head? And this is the same as Batman v Superman. 9-10 minutes of fight action, and they marketed this film as who will win. Now, you and I both know there's so much more about this film than the actual clash. Now, I like the clash. Now, actually, 9-10 minutes is a long time in movie time. That's a pretty long fight. It's not the longest fight ever properly we've ever seen in a movie, but it's bloody long. It's, you're talking about 10 minutes in a film. So I know people say, oh, they didn't fight very long. It could have been a longer fight. It could have been a longer fight split up in segments of the film. That could have been another idea. But that's not what Zack Snyder, Chris Terrio and David Goyer wanted to do. They wanted to tell a story about a world that's just been introduced to the Superman, to the Batman, an old, tiring, bitter and twisted Batman who sees this Superman fight with another alien and put so many lives at risk. And nobody trusts Superman, right? So the whole film is about Superman saving the world and winning the public's and Batman's trust. And that's what this film's about. And it's beautiful. And I remember people saying, this film has nothing to do with Superman. This is a Batman film. Snyder loves Batman and hates Superman, which is simply not true. Maybe he is a bigger Batman fan than Superman fan. But when you analyse his arc and the arc he was going to do, it was Superman's arc. Batman had an arc as well, and I think the whole idea of him sacrificing his life in Justice League to save everyone else, to save everyone's life, was a beautiful arc from where he starts in Batman v Superman. But we met Superman first, right? And just like we did in the comics, it's Superman's thread in Man of Steel, then in Batman v Superman, where everyone's against him, accusing him of creating the explosion at the Capitol building, right? This is a beautiful story and a beautiful idea, right, from these creatives. And in Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition, you see the full vision. There's no other director's cut. This is it. They actually let him, that's why it's called the Ultimate Edition, right? Because it's his vision. Now, I don't know if it's his complete vision, but it seems to me that Warner Brothers said to him, we are in trouble here, Zach. We're sorry, give us what you want. Make the film what you were going to do it. So he did. It gets into cinemas for a limited release, then goes into home release and digital release and all of that, and it does quite well. And even now, that edition is still selling and doing well. But the public and the critics don't really care about the Ultimate Edition. Yes, they admitted, they reviewed it, but the mainstream audience that you were going to capture on opening night, in the opening first 2 weeks, weren't going to go back and watch the Ultimate Edition. They'd seen your horrible butchering of somebody's idea and story and creation in the theatrical cut. So when you hear people on Twitter saying, oh, I hate Batman v Superman, it's a crap film, blah, 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 they're talking about the theatrical version. You will never change those people's minds, and they're not attacking Zack Snyder, not really. I mean, a lot of people use Zack as a scapegoat because they don't like him and they don't like the way he makes films. That's up to them. I'm not a gobstopper. I can't stop people from talking. That's the problem with some people in our movement. They want to be a gobstopper, and I don't like that. Everyone has a right to speak, but everyone has a right to react to what you're saying. If you're going to be controversial and say stuff, you've got to expect reactions, right? And sometimes people are not going to like you. That's life. That's how it works, right? So we have 2 versions of Batman v Superman. The theatrical cut and the Ultimate Edition, that is the actual proper vision of the director and the writers, right? It's a beautiful movie. It's a movie that shows us this younger, crazier Lex Luthor. But what we do see in this film is the hatred that he has for Superman. Just like in the comics, the jealousy, the envy, the hate that he didn't have the love that Superman had, that Superman has the powers and he doesn't. He's got the wealth, right? and the adulation and the respect, but he doesn't have the superpowers. That's what Lex wants to be all powerful, and it's one of the reasons he hates Superman. Having Doomsday in this film, or a version of Doomsday, because Zack confirmed a long time ago this isn't the Doomsday. So there's another one out there. So they can still do that story, but I don't really want to do the death of Superman. Doing the death of Superman right now in DC films would be a disaster because we've already seen it done. They killed him off. They brought him back, disastrously, by the way, but they did it, right? Now, there is a version, right, where we see Superman come back the right way, in a compelling way, controlled by Darkseid. And that's the Snyder Cut of Justice League. And we're still fighting for that movie. And we will go on. And this video is part of that fight to show you what they were doing. They had no faith or belief in a creative. And instead of being honest with themselves and the person who forced them into bringing this man onto the production, they went on and on and on. And then, when the man finished his movies, they would cut his films to pieces behind his back and put them out there. This is what happened with David Ayer's Suicide Squad. They cut the man's vision to pieces, threw it up there. It wasn't David Ayer who edited the cinema, the theatrical release of that. Like it wasn't Zack Snyder who cut the theatrical release of Batman v Superman. When are we going to open our eyes here? The theatrical version of Batman v Superman, as I said, is a literal and narrative mess. And that's why critics called it a mess. This is why critics called the Suicide Squad movie a mess. Now, I think the Suicide Squad theatrical cut is less a mess than the Batman v Superman one, but literally they cut to pieces what David Ayer wanted to do. And David Ayer's admitted that. You know, don't criticise me for something that wasn't my work, right? He shot the scenes, but what he's saying is he didn't put the movie together. That's the point. So in Batman v Superman, you have two versions. The edited studio version that was edited by a studio hack, right? And he just took out the stuff that they told him to take out. So it's a mess. It doesn't make sense. And then you've got the Ultimate Edition, which was actually edited by the director. Maybe the writers were sitting there with Zack as well while it happened. Who knows? But that's Zack Snyder's Ultimate Edition, Ultimate Vision of Batman v Superman. And to me, it is a beautiful, brilliant film. It's a classic. It's a work of genius. But if you ever wonder what went wrong with Batman v Superman, even us people who know the film, who know the situation with Zack Snyder and Warner Brothers, always remember, they took a man's vision and creation, they cut it to pieces. Not Zack Snyder. He didn't edit Batman v Superman, the theatrical cut. Other people did. And that's why the film doesn't make sense and people don't understand what the director and writers are trying to do. Because when you see his vision, the ultimate cut, it's a beautiful film and it makes sense. And if they released the ultimate cut for the theatrical cut, none of this would have happened. So just 2 days until Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn is released. What's going to happen? What are people going to think of this movie? Is this film going to be Cathy Yan's vision, or have Warner Brothers cut this film to pieces as well? I don't think Underwater Armada they do that anymore, but we're going to see what critics, 2 days to release, so we know that reviews are going to start trickling out probably later today, but most probably from tomorrow. From tomorrow, when everyone wakes up in the States, I would say, so that'll be Wednesday, we'll start to see the proper reviews, and then the truth will be revealed. What critics truly thought of this film. Now, people say that's not important what they think. I think it is. It is interesting. If the reviews are horrible, then we know why they stopped the reviews from being released earlier. If they're flattering reviews, which I have my doubts now, right? Even though I've seen the film and I loved it, it's looking like these reviews are not going to be very good. Now, hopefully I'm wrong, and it's a case of not letting spoilers out. And if that's the case, and the reviews are kind of 5s out of 5s, or 3 out of 5s, or 4 out of 5s, that's going to be great. And then there's another question mark: the box office. How well is this film going to be? what's sad about the generation we live in now, all female-led movies or female-led movies are under a lot higher scrutiny than films that are, led by men. It's true. I don't want to sound like a shill, but it's true. The pressure, those films are under pressure to do sometimes as good or better than the male-led shows. It's like this competition. So then everyone can say, you see, we should have female-led. You have to justify everything in the entertainment industry by success and how much money it makes, and that's the problem. So female-led things are under a higher scrutiny. They've got to make money. They've got to make more money than the male-led stuff. Or otherwise, everyone in the industry goes, people don't want to see women. People don't want to see male-led, female-led stuff, right? So this film is under a bit of pressure. Now, this film's under a hell of a lot more pressure because the right wing are really after it now. They're really after it. They're seeing it as a kind of disrespect to their man Donald Trump and whatever else they've imagined in their heads. Wow, I mean, some of the stuff I'm seeing on Geeks and Gamers, the daily videos, which are obviously getting traction and views, and that's why they're doing it. And the fandom menace don't deny it. They're just there for the money. They're not here to solve the argument or stop the argument. They're here to stir it up, and that's what their arguments do. I think they're wasting their time. Look, as I say, it's going to be very, very interesting when this film's released and, when these reviews come out, because either this will fuel the fire of the fandom menace, or people like me can say, well, you got it well wrong, didn't you? Here's the custard pie. Here it is in your face. But if this film fails and if the reviews ain't good, I will react to that and I will respond honestly and say, do you know what? I did like this film, but obviously it hasn't done well, and I have to admit that, and I have to look and see why this film wasn't successful. I don't want that as a DC and DCEU fan. That's the last thing I want. I want these films to keep on being successful so we can keep on getting more and we get this positive vibe. But we shall see, everyone. So I want you to comment down below. And as I say, smash a like on this video if you believe, like I do, that Zack Snyder never edited the theatrical cut of Batman v Superman. These types of videos are very important to gain traction and to have lots of likes. Why? Because this video is the domino effect that we need to educate people to what Warner Brothers did to Zack Snyder and his vision, not just for BVS, but what happened with Justice League. So one thing kind of ignites the other. They cut his vision to pieces, and when what they did failed, they said, all right, you can have your vision. They did it to David Ayer and kind of let him do a director's cut, but that wasn't his full vision. But it was a lot better than what they put out in the beginning. And with Justice League, Zack and Chris Terrio kept on writing script after script. The studio kept on telling them to go back because they thought it was just too much, too crazy, right? Zack said that from his own mouth at SnyderCon, right? And then Zack shoots his movie from his script after he dumbed down his own script several times because that's what they wanted. And then he was forced off the project. They brought in another director. He literally shoots 3/4 of the movie and adds a few pieces from Zack's movie. They literally did they literally crapped on Zack 3 times if you include Suicide Squad, and they had a helping of crap to chuck at David Ayer as well. So the situation is there, the evidence is there, and all we want is to see the full vision of David Ayer's Suicide Squad and the full vision of Zack Snyder's Justice League, or whatever the man shot. That's enough, right? I don't want to see him reshoot the Justice League movie. I want to see the Snyder Cut. The one that's in the Warner Brothers lot. The one that's in a hard drive in probably Zack Snyder's device. That's what we want to see. And what I'm trying to do with this video is explain to you what the studio did to him. Or, to be more direct, what Kevin Sugihara did to him. Please comment down below. Please like the video, share and subscribe. Share the channel, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you then. Have a great day.